All right, welcome everybody to another season of the Miami Postgame Live. I'm Hurricane Central, joined tonight by Slim Shady Canes. We are down a man tonight, Traveling Fools, who recently suffered a tragedy in his family. So if you could just please keep him in your thoughts and prayers. We'll be doing this one without him. So the final score tonight was Miami 38, Ohio 3. They have lost the Miami officially. Just an overall dominant performance, over 250 yards on the ground, 250 yards through the air. Kind of a slow start offensively. We were doing good in gaining yardage, but kind of struggled a little bit of points on the board. But overall in the second half really picked it up, and overall good game. What do you think, Slim?
I agree about the first half. I'll say this: I think it's a little bit to be expected. I mean, it's not an FCS opponent.
No, yeah.
No matter what you think of that team in Ohio, they're not a Bethune-Cookman, so you're not going to hang 70 to nothing on them. So I kind of forgive a slow start, first game of the year. A couple false starts, that kind of thing happens. But they did honestly what I wanted to see them do. Lean on the run game early, balance out the offense. Defense definitely looks improved over last year.
Mm-hmm.
Without a doubt, especially linebackers. That was probably my surprise. And then Mark Fletcher. I expected it to be the Henry Parrish and Don Chaney show. And Mark Fletcher's the one that surprised me tonight.
No, yeah, I mean, he had a few runs early, and he didn't really get too much yardage. I think he had like 2-3 yard runs, but near the end of the first half, he really popped off a few, and he started off the first half with that 26-yard touchdown run, and he looked really good, man. I was really happy with him. I was really happy. There was a few times where I saw Ruben Bain get in the game, and he got pressure. I think he even got half a sack, or if he didn't get it, he hit the quarterback there. Just overall, really brought a lot of pressure to Gabbert, and just we heard a little bit from camp that there were some concerns with the run game. I didn't see anything like that tonight. We absolutely shut them down. They could not move the ball at all on the ground with us.
I think they ended with what? I looked it up, 34 yards rushing or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there was a point in the game where we had more rushing yards than they had total yards. It was just absolutely ridiculous. And, they made some plays, at the very end of the game. They had those two, the one crazy catch and the one that was out of bounds, but it's garbage time against backups. And even then we didn't see what we saw last year, where it was playing these group of 5 teams like Middle Tennessee and giving up a 99-yard touchdown, a 69-yard touchdown. They definitely tried us deep a few times, and the corners held their own, used the sideline well. I was really happy to see that in terms of forcing them out towards the boundary, and just overall good in coverage. Now, obviously, next week is a step up with Texas A&M, which, say whatever you want about them. 5-7. We almost beat them last year. That's a talented team. They have some talented receivers. They're moving in with a new offense, so it should be pretty cool to see what they look like tomorrow. Although I expect it's going to be pretty vanilla, just like we were today. But yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy with the performance.
Well, I agree with you to a point about the offense being vanilla. I do think they're going to try and keep it balanced like we saw in this game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody knows Mario's going to want to establish a run. That's just what Mario wants to do with the team he's the head coach of. And honestly, I kind of prefer it. I think a balanced offense ends up working out better.
No, yeah, I mean, what I'm happy to see is we didn't convert on a lot of them because, first game jitters, whatever it is, new offense. But we at least took deep shots, which you can't say for last year. I really can't remember any deep shots outside of maybe the flea flicker against Southern Miss that we took last year.
Well, I mean, they took some and they threw the ball like 45 times against Texas A&M last year. So yeah, they were taking shots. I focus a lot less on that, and look, I want them to look for their mismatches. I want them to take what the defense gives you. I mean, look what was that? The fourth play from
it was the third play.
Third play. Okay. Now it was third or fourth play from scrimmage. I mean, the defense gave him something underneath, and he was able to make something out of it. I don't care if that ball's going 50 yards in the air down the field. If it ends up in the end zone, it's 6 points all the same.
Which speaking of Kobe Young, something people have pointed out is it was pretty known that this year in the offseason he trimmed down and became a lot leaner, and people were talking about how much quicker he was, which you could see it. Like on that screen that he took like 45 yards to the house, he looked fast. Like he looked pretty fast and he looked good. And a lot of great lower body strength. You know, he broke a few tackles, was very physical. It was something I very much enjoyed to see and something we've been missing in Miami for a little bit, which is like a big physical receiver on the outside that, you know, maybe he's not the fastest, but you can get it to him like in the flat or something, and he can just take that for like 10, 12 yards just because of his physicality.
Well, on that same play we were talking about, the third one from scrimmage, I mean, he got loose and opened it up and just ran away from everybody. So he's got the speed too. Mm-hmm. But what along those lines, and I don't think we've seen this since probably going back to Al Golden, is the number of broken tackles by wide receivers. Mm-hmm. And that was something I was definitely glad to see. Now I like to see him get the tight ends a little more involved in the game.
I mean, well, tonight Elijah Arroyo didn't suit up, and he's been projected the starter, and Cam McCormick was the one in there, and he's that super senior who's like in his 9th year of college football or something, and the dude's like 30 years old at this point. And he's more of like a run blocker, which that showed tonight.
Very good blocker, yeah.
No, yes, which is, hey, I love Will Mallory, but that was not something he really provided last year. Which, you know what, congrats to him on making the 53-man roster in the NFL. Right. So, yeah, but, you know, it's just something nice to see. And, you know, I'm just very happy, especially after last year with everything we went through, to finally see a win, and not just like one of these close, like little like bullshit losses against like an inferior opponent where it's, we got in there early, we stuffed it down their throats, and we just said, they can't stop us on the run. Go 5, 6, 7, 8 yards a pop every time. Just go. Little screenplay. And we just did what we needed to do, and we got out of there. No one was injured. No egregious mistakes. Just the kind of game you want.
Yeah, and that's something I heard a lot of coming into the game was, you know, guys wanting to see deep shots. And yes, I want to see them too. But if you're going to give up, you know, 250-plus rushing yards a game, I'm going to take 250-plus rushing yards a game all day long. And I heard people making comparisons a couple of weeks ago, how they didn't want to see, you know, like we started off against UAB, Rhett Lashley's first year, where they ran for, I think it was like 370 yards in that game, mm-hmm. and didn't do a lot else. I don't care.
So what?
Like, if you're going to give me 300, 400, 500 yards to rush, I'm going to take 300, 400, 500 yards to rush.
Hell, North Carolina with Sam Howell put up 600 yards rushing on our ass, and they were a passing team.
Yep.
And not even just that, but you're going back to that Rhett Lashley game. The next week we played Louisville. Derek King threw for almost 400 yards. That's what's important, the versatility on offense. If you can do that, if you can – because look at, just for example, Georgia last year, right? A lot of people think of Georgia as like this rushing team, but when Stetson Bennett kind of had to throw and those receivers needed to step up, whether it was against Ohio State or in any other game, mainly the Ohio State game now that I'm thinking about it, they could do it. They could throw the ball. It's just they preferred, hey, if we can pound it down your throat, we're going to do that. That's fine.
And dominate on defense, yeah. And you know, I was just scrolling through YouTube and going through some people that were live while the game was going on. And I think I went into Coach Coops right after TVD threw that interception. And I mean,
that was a bad pick.
Okay, yes, it was a bad pick. You know, you didn't see the linebacker spying you. It is what it is. But, I mean, they were already pulling out the pitchforks and torches.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, guys. I mean, this is his first game in a new system. His third offensive coordinator in 3 years, by the way. It's not going to look the prettiest game one. And if that is not looking the prettiest, I'll take it. Because that wasn't bad at all. 5 incompletions, 250 yards, or he had 200 yards passing, 1 touchdown and 1 INT.
No, especially against a team where it's like Miami, Ohio, which a lot of people were saying this was a good first little test for us. This was a team that could have pushed us a little bit, where I think they were returning like 9 starters on defense, and they had a very good defense in the MAC last year, and it's a team that constantly competes in the MAC. You know, this isn't some like, it's not like we were playing Colorado from last year where it's like some garbage team that went 1-11. Like, no, this is a team that consistently wins bowl games, wins 6-7 games, and they have a decent quarterback, which, hey, we shut his little ass up. You know, we were smacking him around, and that was good to see after the comments. But he was kind of egged on, but whatever. Like,
yeah, I mean, the reporter did straight up ask him. That was kind of a setup.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's also, they're going to lean more in on him because it's Blaine Gabbert's brother. So,
and also, he's a good quarterback. Like, I'm not going to sit here.
Yeah, he's not bad at all.
It's just, I mean, what's he going to do when he has Miami, Ohio talent going against Miami, Florida talent, where you have 4 stars all over the field? Like,
sure. But, I mean, to the point you were making, it's like I said at the beginning, you know, this isn't Bethune-Cookman. So this wasn't a team where we're going to go in there and beat 70-0. And even if you beat, that team 70-0, number one, shout out to your defense, because it's hard to shut anybody out at any level of football.
Last year we gave up 13 to Bethune.
Yeah. So to give up 3 and 3 only to the Red Hawks, I'll take that all day.
Yeah, and like I was saying before, it's especially encouraging when it's a team that, I think a stat I saw, it's like whenever they rush for over 185 yards, they're 16-0. So they like to run the ball. Yeah. And they were trying to do that tonight, and they could not. We were just immediately the speed. They kept trying these little sweeps, trying to run it on the outside, and we just shut it down every time. No,
there's too much speed out there. They can't.
And something that was really refreshing is even last year this showed up in the Bethune-Cookman game, which it was the inability to stop mobile quarterbacks. Which, look, Blaine Gabbert isn't Michael Vick or even like Jordan Travis levels of speed. But, you know, he's mobile. He can get out there. He can move. He can scramble for maybe 10 yards if you let him, if you fall asleep on it. But we didn't. We pretty much shut it down. I think he ran for like 5 yards once. You know, it was just an overall great defensive performance.
Yeah. And I've got to give credit where credit's due. That offensive line didn't give up a sack. They were opening up holes for the run game all day, which was the problem with the run game last year. I was iffy, which anybody should be, starting a true freshman on the offensive line. But
he looked good.
It was obvious. He looked good. It was the right call. And, I mean, you know, I'm still kind of iffy. You know, it's one game, small sample size, so I'm not going to jump on any kind of hype train or anything. But we've seen this problem going back to when Malik Rozier was the quarterback, giving up 40 to 50 sacks a year. So to not give up any in a game, I don't care who it's against. I'm going to give him props for it.
We had guys like Corey Gaynor at center. Now we have Matt Lee. You know, it's what Mario was brought in here to do. And look, 5-7 last year. Yeah, whatever. Laugh at it. I don't care. It's a new year. But he has at least delivered on the promise that he's going to build up the trenches. Because you look down there and you've got Jaden Wayne, 5-star. Ruben Bain, 4-star, but he should have been a 5-star. This kid had 48 sacks in his last 2 years of high school. And he's not playing some shit-tier competition. He's at Miami Central going up against IMG and the big boys.
Well, I mean, Miami Central was national champions, and Ruben Bain would have been a 5-star in 45 other states.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
just the way it is.
Jaden Wayne, Francis Mauigoa, Samson Okunlola, and even some of the 3-stars he's brought in. It's not 6 foot, 290-pound guys. He's bringing in 6'2", 6'3", 320-pound guys that he can mold and develop into top-tier offensive linemen. I mean, look at Oregon last year. He wasn't there last year, but he built that O-line, and it was a top 10 O-line in the country.
Yeah.
If you give me that at Miami with some of the athletes we're going to be able to get at running back, sign me up, man. I don't care.
Now, I do something that I couldn't help but notice, and I have to question, is Emory Williams getting in the game, but not Ja'Curry Brown?
Well, Ja'Curry's I saw something on this. Ja'Curry's sort of like looking into redshirting, but then also with the new redshirt rules, you can play 4 games and keep the red shirt.
Right.
And Mario addressed it after the game, and he said Emory was the backup for tonight because he earned it with the reps in practice.
Okay.
Which is encouraging to see. He's not immediately just shutting down Ja'Curry as potentially being the backup. He's saying, no, Emory earned it, so he's the backup this week. If Ja'Curry shows out, then he can be the backup again. It's encouraging competition, and that's what we've been missing because we used to be in a state where we had guys like Gervin Hall missing a tackle and purposely going into a block against Michigan State, yet he still gets playing time just because he's a senior.
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily I heard a lot of that, and like perfect example, last year, Will Mallory would have got pulled out a lot of games if they had a better option. But Arroyo got hurt, and Mallory was just the best option we had. Sometimes that's just who you have to deal with. I unless I've got proof of it, I don't buy into the politics of it like a lot of people do.
I mean, it was pretty much said by a lot. It was pretty much said by a lot of, like, I don't want to harp on this too much, but it was pretty much said by a lot of players where it was like, yeah, it was kind of an accepted thing where it's like you sit as a freshman, and when you're a senior, junior, you kind of just start. Like, you could kind of screw up a little bit every now and then, and you'll still keep your starting spot. There was no real, like, repercussions, I guess is the word, or like standard to be held up to.
Right.
Not like I don't want to say.
Well,
this,
I mean, I agree.
The old Miami.
I agree there needs to be competition. I agree that everybody needs to be held to a standard. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. But look at the elite programs in the country. I mean, Alabama will start freshmen.
Georgia did it last year. Bear Alexander. He's a defensive lineman at the University of Georgia.
But my point is,
started as a freshman last year.
Maybe it's just because I follow Miami more. I hear it more out of Miami fans. We seem just dead set focused on starting freshmen. And yes, you see it at places, but it's well earned. To me, it's not always well earned to pull somebody or put somebody in at times here.
But that's what's so refreshing about this staff, where they're willing to go to a senior and be like, hey, you're not living up to the standard, but we have this freshman guy who's putting in the work, and he's outworking you in practice. Sure, he's going to make some mistakes, and we accept that, but we're willing to put him in now because he's putting in the work, and you're just simply not.
Oh, and that I absolutely agree with, and that was a problem with some people and not others. I mean, I can think of a corner or two that a lot of people liked or didn't like, I think is the better way to put that. I mean, guy would show out on the practice field, but for whatever reason, it wasn't until his senior year he could put it together on the field.
Yeah, I mean, and, I want to go back to the point you were making about the linebackers. It is really refreshing to see just how effective the linebackers were tonight. I don't know when's the last time we can say that.
I mean, since Shaq Quarterman was here?
Yeah, I mean, Francisco Mauigoa, he's legit.
Yes.
Yeah, he's legit. And even, you know what? I'm going to say a name people don't like. Corey Flagg. I don't think he should be a starter at the University of Miami just because maybe he's not up to the talent standard we have for ourselves. But he's still a guy that when you hear like about him, he works. He's a leader. And when he gets in, maybe he's not the fastest, maybe he's not the strongest, but he tries his ass off. And he a lot of times does come up with the play that needs to be made. And just a lot of respect to him because he has taken a lot of shit over the years, and I just wanted to say that and stand up for him a little bit there, because I know a lot of people were.
Yeah, I'll completely agree with that.
Because a lot of people, when Francisco were coming in, it kind of turned into a lot of like screw Corey Flagg thing. Now we can finally get rid of him, and it's like, why would you want to get rid of that? That's a leader. That's a guy you want on your team.
And yeah, because there are plenty of guys that you can point to, even in Miami's history, that were not the most talented, but had the intangibles that you can't teach, you can't be taught, you can't. You either have it or you don't. And I've gotten into it with some Miami fans about this. Ken Dorsey was not the best quarterback, but he had a leadership ability and a mentality that made him by far the best quarterback for that team.
Yeah, I mean, true. If you go back and watch Ken Dorsey, there was a lot of some wobbly passes, some underthrown passes.
I mean, just going by his stats, they're not that far different from Malik Rogers.
Yeah, I mean, but there was a reason he got drafted, and he kind of hung around in the NFL for a little bit, and it's because he was, one, a smart football player,
yes,
and two, a leader, which is why he is the offensive coordinator of one of the best offenses in the NFL. And he has brought Josh Allen to another level, and he brought Cam Newton to another level because he's that smart and that good of a leader, which, I'd rather take the 3-star that works hard and makes all the right plays and doesn't cause any drama rather than the 5-star that's out partying and getting caught in, I don't know, like some burglary charge or some stupid stuff like that. Shout out Nebraska.
Can you really blame that on Nebraska, though?
No, that's not on that. That's not on them. I'm just giving a little shout out.
They just finding out what kind of headache they inherited.
Oh God.
It's kind of like that dog you pick up off the corner because your wife thinks it's cute, and nothing's free.
But yeah, I mean, let's see what else. Yeah, we covered the trenches. Like I said, the secondary looked good.
Yes, Joseph Adai for all, and he's caught a lot of flack from the Miami fan base since he's been here. And once again, he's proving why he has had success everywhere he's been. Without exception, that man has had success everywhere he's been, and you're starting to see why. You saw smarter play than I've seen in a while. You don't usually see it at the college level, and I know there's no specific special teams coach. A lot of guys help out on this, and I know Adai is one of them. I guarantee you, when Restrepo took that dive on that punt, that came from Adai. And yes, that was a dive. Give Restrepo his Grammy or Emmy because he earned it. That was a good flop job.
That was so funny because everyone in my section was like, he stood there for 5 minutes, looked at him, and still hit him.
I guess dude thought he was gonna take off with it, like he didn't call for the fair catch.
But all his teammates are standing around him, not hitting him. Like, why?
Yeah, I don't get that. But then just the absolute, like I said, Emmy-worthy flop job there by Restrepo.
Looked like Joel Embiid.
I mean, he could give LeBron a run for leading the league in flop jobs, but that's the kind of stuff you also see come from Adai, other than just the corner play. I mean, I saw probably more pass breakups in this game than I saw most of last year.
Yeah, and also, like I mentioned these earlier, like the 2 big shots they took at the end of the game. 1, those are freshman corners in garbage time.
Sure. 2,
it wasn't even bad coverage. Like, if you go back and watch those receivers are having to dive backwards for the ball. Like, it's good coverage. It's just a better throw.
Yeah, and instant reactions to games, people want to kind of blow stuff up. I mean, Deion's the greatest corner I've ever seen play the game, and I've seen him get absolutely burnt crispy by just good receivers.
Jalen Ramsey's a very good corner, one of the top 3 corners, maybe not now, but like used to be one of the top 3 corners in the league. And he gets burnt.
Exactly.
If you play football, you get burnt. It doesn't matter if you're the greatest offensive lineman of all time, you're gonna get beat. It happens. But even then, again, like those are freshmen, and it was just great throws. Like overall, we did everything I wanted to see tonight.
Yeah.
We dominated in the trenches, got them down early and broke their spirits. Didn't give up any big plays. They didn't even get a first down until the second quarter.
Yeah, and to me, you had 2 incompletions in the first half, and one of them was just a miscommunication because Young was downfield blocking. Like he thought the ball was going to somebody else, so that was just a miscommunication.
Yeah, I think you're thinking of the one where it's Jacoby George, where Tyler clearly thinks he's supposed to run like an out towards the sideline.
Yeah,
but he just keeps kind of running a go, and it kind of looked like Tyler just threw it away. And
he had a hold of the corner too. He was blocking that corner pretty good.
Yeah, and you can just tell it was like you could just tell they're kind of looking at each other. It was like, yeah, my bad, bro. We gotta tighten that up a little bit.
And that kind of stuff I completely overlook, especially game 1. But okay, even if I end up with one of those a game, 2 of those a game, hell, even 3. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take 5 incompletions a game. There was nothing overly egregious. Bad pick, yes, like you said.
But that's one of those things that you can go in on Monday, and Shannon Dawson's going to sit down with Tyler and be like, look, man, you can't just loft that ball in the middle of the field when you have a corner in the zone in the flat and he's drifting back like that.
Yeah.
And TVD looks at that and he goes, okay, I'll look out for that next time. It's nothing so egregious that it's like that can't be fixed.
Exactly. Well, and he hasn't played since what? He didn't play in the last 3 games of last year, 2 or 3.
He played in the Pitt game for a little bit, and then he got injured again. Yeah. Like it was just.
That wasn't enough to really even call it, in my opinion, playing in that game.
He played the first drive, I think, something like that.
Yeah, I don't even think he finished it. There obviously was something wrong with his finger. Although it wasn't the finger that anybody reported. They all got the wrong finger.
I remember seeing that report popped up, and it was like, he's 50-50. And I was like, because of a thumb? He's 50-50 because of a gun? Did he break it?
Everybody was saying 50-50, and then some people were saying thumb. Some people were saying it was his ring finger. And it didn't turn out to be either one, and it also didn't turn out to be on his throwing hand.
Whatever, man.
Hey, those insiders they're on top of it, y'all.
Shout out Kane Sport. Whatever. But yeah, I mean, like even then, like he made some nice throws. Like there was that one throw to X on the sideline. He had some nice throws over the middle. Where it wasn't super tight coverage, but he fitted into some spots there to Colby Young, to X, which I am very much convinced that Colby Young-Tyler connection is going to keep developing more and more over the season and be a very explosive combination, especially with the little bit we saw last year, like sort of near the end of that North Carolina game, where on like that second to last drive, Tyler just kept feeding it to Colby Young and he absolutely mossed a dude in the end zone. I think that's going to be really fun to see. And I'm excited to see how Shannon Dawson's offense works, which I know people want the high, explosive, pass-heavy offense. And, that's a fun offense. It's fun. But Mike Leach for a long time ran a pass-heavy, vertical offense like that, and maybe the best he could muster was like 9-3. You need that run game. You need to be balanced. You need to be excellent in the trenches. That is what wins in college football. That's what Michigan took for a 12-0 season last year in a college football playoff berth. That's how Michigan has beat Ohio State the last 2 years. Ohio State has been that up-tempo, fast, heavy offense, and Michigan has just beat them down to the dirt. And Georgia's won 2 national championships with it.
That offense, the offense can work. I'm not saying it can't. The problem is it wears out your defense.
Mm-hmm.
Because if everything works right, okay. and some people remember this, some people won't. 2000. What year would that have been?
What are you trying to think of?
What was that? That would have been 13. Stephen Morris, when we went 9-3.
Yep.
With James Coley as the offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
They scored an average of like a minute and a half. What happened? You kept sticking the defense right back out on the field.
Yeah. Like there was some people around me kind of complaining like, oh, like we're just running the clock down too much. We got to move faster. And it's like, well, you kind of saw the same problem with Rhett Lashley in the beginning of 2021 where he was going too damn fast.
I've seen Kendall Briles lose games that way because he would not slow down, and he turned around and gave Bryce Perkins for Virginia the ball back when Kendall Briles was at Florida State, and Bryce Perkins made him pay, cost FSU the game.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's points to go fast. No one denies that. Like, you get down a little bit and you need some quick points. Yeah, you can speed it up. You can go with that up tempo. You can catch teams off guard. But there's also points where it's maybe the defense just got off a long drive. They forced a stop on fourth down in their own territory. And it's like, all right, let's give these guys a little break. Let's go on a nice 6-7 minute drive, 5-minute drive. Yep. You need stuff like that.
Now, Mr. Overdose makes a point that TVD has a habit of looking for Xavier Restrepo. Well, number one, all quarterbacks have got a wide receiver they look to first. Every single quarterback that's ever played. I mean, most prolific example, Tom Brady and Gronk.
Hey, if it produces, man, I don't care.
Well, everybody's got it, but also Restrepo and TVD are roommates. So, of course, they're going to be closer than everybody else. That connection's going to be there. He's going to be looking at Restrepo first.
And also, more often than not, when he tries to get the ball to Restrepo, like, we get good yardage out of it.
Sure.
Like, it's not – it would be more of a concern to me if this was the type of situation where it's like, why do you keep trying to force it over there? That's not working. We're not getting anything out of that. I mean, look at Tyler Van Dyke in 2021. He would always look for Charleston Rambo. And what happened? Yeah. He threw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns a game, and we went 5-1 to finish that season.
Now, granted, Rambo was the only one that seemed to come down with the ball, so he didn't have too much choice. But
Mike Harley had a good year. Don't say that.
Yeah, Mike Harley had a decent year. But I'm glad we got, and Workforce Freebie makes the same point. I'm glad we got exactly what was advertised. Kind of a mesh of the both. They're going to run the ball, but they're also going to throw it around when they have to. That's going to be just as much part of the game. It's going to be balanced. That's what was advertised. That's what we got.
Yeah, I mean, there was also a lot. I saw some people complaining. They were like, "Can we stop with the damn screens?" And it's like, it's working against Miami, Ohio. We don't need to get flashy here.
No, you don't. In my opinion, you don't really need to get flashy against anybody, especially early in the year. Non-cons you get flashy about, and your bigger games in conference you get flashy about. Everything else, do what you got to do to get out of the game. You covered the spread. That's all I'm worried about, because that's something.
No one got hurt.
Yeah, nobody got hurt. But that's something else that Miami has not been very good at. And I know not everybody gambles. Some people do, some people don't. But spreads are something I look at a lot. And Miami's not good at covering the spread.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I want to see. Look at teams that usually are good at covering the spread. They're consistent playoff teams.
I think what we covered the spread like once or twice last year, maybe once.
There's a reason Ohio State is in the conversation. I think it was Ryan Day. I think it was Ryan Day's first year. He covered the spread. First 2 years covered the spread like 70% of the time.
Yeah, I mean, we covered tonight, which was surprising. Yeah, it wasn't surprising to me. I looked at it and I was like, 17. We should beat them by 21, and we beat them by 35. I had the final score for me. I thought it was gonna be like 41-16. And
Yeah, I think you bugged out there for a second. We lost your audio.
Hello?
There you are.
It's so weird. I just got a notification that was like, your mic disconnected, and then it just reconnected, even though I never touched anything and no cables were moved. But, whoa. Technology.
Yeah, it's supposed to make things better, so I heard.
Yeah. No, but I was saying, like, the spread was 17 and a half, and I was looking at it, and I was like, first of all, okay, we deserve it.
I understand it. Yeah, I'm about to say it's well deserved after last season.
But we should not just cover the spread, we should smash it. And we did, because we beat their ass by 35 points. But
now I'm curious. Can you look up the what the spread is for next week? I'm sure it's already out.
I think it was like a touchdown.
Much. Yeah, it wasn't much last time I looked at
it. Spread. It's still 7.5. Texas A&M.
And rightfully so. They're a more talented team than we are. Jimbo's a more proven coach.
Yeah.
I do think I want to see them, especially offensively, play with a little more. What's the word I'm looking for? Urgency next week. Like they were kind of laid back, and rightfully so. It's the Red Hawks. You know, no real sense of urgency. I do want to see that out of the offense next week. And I do.
I believe we will.
I
Because
want to clean up some of these penalties that kind of bogged down. Like they're in the middle of the game, the offense kind of got bogged down with a couple of penalties.
Leonard Taylor's stupid penalty at one point. Leonard Taylor had a penalty where it was about to be 3rd and 16, and they're in their own end zone, and he gets an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, and he gives them a first down. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah, well, and they had been getting chippy back and forth with each other for the entire quarter, and I'm not a fan of it. But I mean, everybody knows how it works. Whoever makes the last shove is gonna be who gets caught, and is gonna be who gets called. So pull a Restrepo, win yourself an Emmy, and fall down when he does it, and draw attention. I don't care. I mean, it's no worse than Butch Davis in 2019 having all of his players all of a sudden come up with cramps every minute and a half.
God, do not remind me of that. That was an Oscar performance right there. Every 5 seconds, anytime we got a big play, oh my calf.
Like I can understand it if it's the Red Hawks.
We were in an indoor stadium.
Wasn't that in Marlins Park?
Yeah, we were indoors.
Was that indoors? No, that thing's still open, isn't it?
The roof was covered. I'm pretty sure the roof was covered that night.
Okay.
Which is what made it so crazy.
Well, either way, I could expect it out of the Red Hawks. I could expect it out of Syracuse coming down. But FIU's from across town.
They're 15 minutes from me.
That's what really didn't make a whole lot of sense about that one.
Whatever. God, let's just not harp on the most disappointing moments in Miami Hurricanes history. Let's just talk about the good win tonight.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, no, I mean, overall, it was just like I said, especially after the disappointment and just hell, I guess you could say that was last year. It was just nice to like get out here and do exactly what we were supposed to do. Which I know it sounds like crazy to some people where it's like, why are you excited that we did what we were supposed to do? It's because we didn't do it last year.
Well, and we haven't done it for the better part of 20 years.
Yeah, like
I've harped on this I don't know how many times because I've heard it this offseason. I've heard it every offseason. 10 wins, 12 wins, 15 wins, whatever it is. And I'm like, we've won one bowl game since 2006. How about we work on that?
I was going 8-4, but if we can win the bowl game, I'll celebrate like we won a national freaking title, man.
mean, all these things come in steps. I mean, the formula's proven. You know, people try and make exceptions, and in some regards, he is out of guys like Kirby Smart. But Kirby Smart walked into a much better position than what Mario walked into, or even what Mark Richt walked into when he got here.
Yeah, I mean, shit, Kirby Smart, like, that team had top 10 recruiting classes for like the last 8 years before he got there or something. I don't know, something ridiculous. That was a top 10 talented team in the country when Kirby Smart got there.
So and that's why I constantly harp on we have to break this cycle of firing people, because that's why guys don't progress. I think TVD can be a much better quarterback than he is now if he had the same OC for 2 years.
I mean, we saw it. He had Lashley for 2 years, and what did he do? He showed out.
Yep.
Because he knew the system and he was comfortable with it. And not just that, but it was a system that worked for him.
Oh, yeah. And that's part of it, too. And I think that's part of the reason where when guys come in, it's part of what leads to a bad year is that if you bring in a guy that's going to bring in a drastically different system than what you were running before, then, I mean, you don't – try to think of an example here. All right, Manny Diaz recruited linebackers to get tackles for loss and stuff the run. Well, when Kevin Steele came in, he's wanting linebackers that can fall back into coverage. That's two different kind of linebackers that you're recruiting. So, of course, it's not going to work out year one, but you have to make the best do with what you have, recruit, and move forward from there.
Yeah, I mean, you know, people throw around the term like system QB a lot. Hell, to an extent a little bit, every quarterback is sort of a system QB. There is very few QBs that you can just plug in any sort of system and they'll perform at the same level or about the same level.
Sure.
Like, guys need systems that play to their strengths. You know, Jordan Travis had the year he had last year, but he was in a very run-heavy offense that played to his strengths as a mobile quarterback.
Perfect example. And you saw it early in the year when he got there. And I'm using him because everybody knows who he is and because I'm a Tampa fan. When Tom Brady first got in Tampa, trying to run that Bruce Arians system that he's never run in his professional career, it led to some ugly losses there at the beginning of the year. You know, because you're trying to get Tom Brady, who's been, because of the guys he's had around him, has had to make work with Dinkin and Duncan, short passes, working with his tight ends, working with his slots. You can't just throw him into a system where you're expecting him to throw the ball 45 times a game, push the ball down the field to guys like Godwin and Evans, and expect there to be a whole lot of success from the very rip.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't Madden where in the middle of like your little franchise season, you're like, this little power offense isn't working. Let's go to more of this like vertical spread offense, and you can just kind of just do it however.
Yeah.
You know, because it's the same like 6 plays, but like just slightly different variations.
I wish Texas A&M had already played. We could start previewing that. But as far as the next game, everybody knows we have A&M next. I know a lot of people are expecting a whole lot of improvement out of A&M, much like they're expecting a whole lot of improvement out of us. I still have my questions on how much control of the offense Jimbo will give up. And you're bringing in Bobby Petrino. Yes, he's a proven offensive guy.
He's also a proven shithead.
He's proven to be a very toxic person as well. So, I mean, you run the risk of hiring Bobby Petrino and it backfiring on you. majorly.
Yeah, I mean, this is either going to be a match made in heaven or keeping up with the Kardashians level of drama that we're going to hear about in the offseason. There's no in between. There's no in between.
I'm leaning towards the latter because I do not think Jimbo is just going to give up complete control of the offense. Jimbo's an offensive guy. Everybody knows that.
Real quick. Thank you, Robin, for the super sticker.
Oh, appreciate you, Robin.
Yeah, appreciate you. All right, continue, Slim. Sorry about that. Just wanted to shout him out.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Everybody knows Jimbo's an offensive guy, and I have my doubts of him. You saw the same thing with Mark Richt at Georgia and at Miami. He's an offensive guy. They want to run their offense. You see the same thing with defensive guys. You think Kirby Smart and Nick Saban don't micromanage the defenses of their teams? Of course they do.
Hell, Manny did it. He was upset with Blake Baker, so he was like, fine, I'll do it myself. And even then, that Blake Baker defense was his defense.
Well, I think Manny actually folded to the pressure of listening to the fan base online. That was my opinion on that. I don't think Blake Baker was that bad.
That would be so funny if Manny based all his decisions off Kane's Twitter.
Well, and like, it's easy for me to say it because, you know, I get on YouTube. I'm not on anything else. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on Twitter or X or whatever the hell you want to call it now. I'm not on any of it. So it's easy for me to block all that crap out. I've just got to listen to the crazies that are on YouTube. But it's not as easy for them. I mean, I absolutely believe, and until proven wrong, I'm going to, Manny was hired because the majority of the fan base I was hearing, we want Manny.
Yeah, I mean, that was a whole saga where that's the reason why we're going to Temple on the road this year, because we took Manny from him 2 weeks after they introduced him, and we were kind of like, fine, we'll play you on the road.
Okay, and I know we're not the only ones to do this. North Carolina's done it. Virginia Tech's done it with Old Dominion. Can we stop this habit of going on the road?
Alabama is playing USF this year on the road.
What?
Yes, look it up. They're playing the University of Southern Florida Bull. The University of Alabama is playing USF on the road.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that trend in college football. Can we just stop? I mean, granted, there's a lot of things trending in college football nowadays that I would want to stop, but I think that's one that's manageable.
I mean, are they paying us to go there? I'm confused. I don't know how this one works.
Yeah, I'm not sure how this works, to be perfectly honest.
Normally, we pay them to come down here, but like.
Yeah, well, that's FCS teams. I mean, I get.
No, we paid Miami, Ohio to play us this year, and we paid Middle Tennessee to kick our ass last year, but.
You know, I had to look it up just because we were getting ridden so hard about that last year. We are far from the only school that's got a goose egg against somebody to laugh about. I promise you. I found some.
You lost to Georgia Southern.
You realize Georgia is winless all time against Holy Cross. Alabama's winless all time against Rice.
Oh, God.
Everybody's got them. But you know what I think the difference is? And I brought this up to a couple of people before. When Georgia was stinking up college football, when Alabama was stinking up college football, there was no YouTube. There was no Twitter. There was no Instagram. There was no Facebook. There was none of that. But right around the time Miami started their downturn, actually almost right on cue in 2006, I agree with that workforce. Yes. Unlike Florida and Florida State.
Yeah, I think he meant to say FCS, but we get what he meant.
Oh, yeah. I've never seen Miami lose to an FCS school in my life, unlike the other two in the state. I can't relate to those problems.
Yeah. Robin, thank you again. This time a super chat, $2. We look so different tonight in a good way. Yeah, I mean, I was gonna bring this up earlier. Francisco Mauigoa. They asked him after the game, like, how hyped are you for the Texas A&M game next week? And he kicked the screen behind him, and he was like, "I'm so freaking excited, man!" Like,
And a lot of people want to say there's not a home field advantage playing in Miami because it's not an on-campus stadium. I could care less about that. I really could. They've never played in an on-campus stadium. They never will play in an on-campus stadium.
Dan Radakovich said it tonight.
Them old waspy white folks are never going to let them build a stadium in Coral Gables. That's not a thing that's ever going to happen.
Yeah, that's something I've had to explain to people. Like, when you guys were doing the preview show, I was up in Tallahassee helping my brother move in. And I was talking to – he was moving in with a friend of ours, and we were with some friends of his, and they're obviously Florida State fans, and they were like, so why don't you guys have an on-campus stadium? And I was like, bro, you have never been to Coral Gables, have you? Because these are like a bunch of white kids from Georgia. And I was like, there's nowhere to build it, and there's nowhere they're going to let you build it.
Well, I'm not going to take that lip from a Florida State fan. Get that white boy off that show pony and get a real engine on that horse, and then we can talk. Shout out to the Seminoles, by the way. I was going somewhere with that. I actually think there's plenty of reason to be optimistic about winning this game because if you look at big-time non-con games they played in Hard Rock or Sun Life or whatever it was called at the time. And this is,
Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, this even going back to when Randy Shannon was the head coach. We had that home and home with Oklahoma, lost on the road, won at home. Same thing with Ohio State, same thing with Nebraska, same thing with Notre Dame.
Yeah, and I mean, last year, like, these are two different teams from last year in terms of like transfer portal acquisitions and now freshmen coming in, but you know, we didn't have the caliber of offensive line we did, but they still had around the same caliber of defensive line. And we were able to run the ball pretty freaking well on them last year. And TVD had some good protection against all those 5-stars on that defensive line. And then now you've got a Javion Cohen who's been in the SEC at Alabama. You've got a Matt Lee who's one of the top centers, if not the top center in the country. 5-star freshman Francis Mauigoa, Jalen Rivers on the outside. You know, it's a very much improved offensive line, and the defensive line got better. But like I said, the matchup I really want to see is how our corners match up against their receivers, because they do have a lot of talent in that receiver room.
Oh, without a doubt. And I think that's where Joseph and I can be a help to kind of bridge that gap.
Yeah, I mean, right now I have it pegged as a loss because, you know, it's not an original thought of mine. A lot of people have brought it up, but it's something I do believe. Until I can see that Miami can sort of beat an SEC team, because we haven't beaten one in like 10 years, and sort of match up with that.
We don't play SEC teams that often.
We've played a few. We've played Florida, Texas A&M, Bama,
Texas A&M, Bama, and then before that, I want to say it was Florida in 2013.
That's the last time we beat an SEC team.
Well, we just don't do it very often. I mean, that's why I was glad with the home and home with A&M and Auburn and Florida.
Yeah, I mean, we have a few. We have Florida home and home, then South Carolina home and home, and then like going into the 2030s, we have Auburn home and home. So we're gonna be playing a few SEC teams in the years to come.
Yeah, but like I said, I'm optimistic going into next week because that was a close game last year. I feel like Texas A&M and Miami are in very similar boats, so that to me would almost kind of negate the talent advantage. Because, I mean, there was no clear talent advantage last year, and there was obviously one. And people seem to show up for these big-time non-con games.
Not even just that, but even last year with Florida State, with the dog shit season we were having, that stadium was packed, man. I was there. Like that first quarter, it was packed. It was loud. People were excited to be there because, we've said it. It's an event town. It is, and Texas A&M versus Miami next week is gonna kind of be an event, and people are gonna show up. You're gonna have the Canes fans driving down from West Palm Beach. You're gonna have people showing up to the game, and they don't have season tickets, but it's like, hey, this is a big game. We'll go to that, and people will show up for the Clemson game too.
Yeah, people show up for and I've actually had a couple of. I'm friends with a couple of Clemson fans. Obviously, went to the Clemson game last year with some, and one or two of them are thinking Miami might be the team to drop a loss on Clemson this year, and not trying to build it up and say Miami's good enough, but to the point of it's probably going to be a team, and Miami fits that mold that you assume Clemson's going to run over, like Pitt did to Clemson in what was that, 17? Or no, Syracuse did it to them in 17.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Pitt did it to them in 16. Yeah. So kind of like that. Miami could be that team to kind of come out of left field and end up, sticking the one loss on
thing is, like, I don't think we're so bad that we'll sneak up on them like that. And then also, like, we're such like a big brand that they'll take it seriously. And Dabo, for whatever reason, just always likes to beat up on us. Like last year, he just really wanted to hang 40, and he didn't call the dogs off for the end of the game because Dabo was like.
Well, I don't really care about calling them off. We alluded to this point earlier. Or no, I was on somebody else's show talking about that. I want you to run your offense for the whole game. Now, granted, if you're up 4 scores at halftime, okay, put in your second stringers, but I want them running the offense.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how you build the quality depth to where if somebody goes down in an important game, perfect example, there's a reason Tua was able to come in that national title game against Georgia in 2017 and beat Georgia. Because in the second half of all those blowouts Alabama had all year, Tua came in and was running the offense. He wasn't just handing the ball off 50 times. He was running the offense. And that's what I want to see them do. I don't care what the score is. You have a comfortable lead. Put in your second stringers, let them run the offense. Put in your third stringers, let them run the offense. If people want to call that running up the score, well, okay. Send all your complaints to my email, and I'll delete them all promptly.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you cut out for a second. What? Send all complaints to your email?
I think somebody else sent us a super chat. Robin did again.
Yeah, Thank you, Robin. It was Robin again. Talking about the white boy and pony.
Well, I've said it for years, and it started off just as a joke to Florida State fans. But at this point, I'm serious. Somebody gets a scholarship to be the mascot at Florida State. In my opinion, it should be somebody from the Seminole Nation.
Yeah. Robin again, another $5. I actually saw our team blocking and tackling all night. Huge difference. Yeah, there was definitely like effort there, and then especially with the tackling. Like I saw someone post on Twitter where it's like we're finally making tackles in the open field and not with this like stupid arm tackle crap. And it's basic defense and something that really shouldn't be like harped on too much or celebrated. But when you have the issues we've had at like linebacker and with tackling, where just in 2021, every play that there was a missed tackle, the announcers on TV are going, oh, there's another Miami missed tackle. There's another Miami missed tackle. There's another Miami missed tackle.
Well, in my opinion, a lot of that is just give a damn. Now, I agree with Kevin Steele's point. Some of it is just a byproduct of them the NCAA taking a lot of tackling out of practice. But a lot of times, just give a damn, in my opinion. Yeah, Adam, several people online have tried to have arguments with me about that. It doesn't go over well because
Yeah,
I've been to Clemson. I've been to Clemson, to Death Valley. I've been to Neyland Stadium. I'm fixing to go to Gainesville. I've been to Ole Miss. I've been to several stadiums, and Hard Rock's a whole lot more comfortable. So
yeah, man.
just don't care.
I went to the Florida FSU game last year. Oh my God, those benches! It was so nice to have a seat.
Terrible.
My own seat. It's like I was telling this to my friend. I was like, you are a major Division I college team. You make hundreds of millions of dollars every year in revenue, and you can't afford some decent goddamn seating in your stadium that you own. You own it. You have complete control over this thing, and you can't afford decent seating. But whatever. Like, I don't care if we don't own the stadium, man. I've got my own seat. I'm comfortable. I've got cup holders for my beer. I'm all good.
Right?
I don't care.
Like,
if we own the
I'll
damn
take
thing.
Hard Rock all day long.
It's got the nice roof. It was raining tonight, and I didn't get a drop on me. Not a drop.
Isn't that nice? It's nice. That's why those arguments don't work with me. I don't care. I mean, you want to holler that the Dolphin, you know, we play in the Dolphin Stadium. We have to share a stadium. Yeah, well, they shared our stadium for decades, so they're just paying us back. That's all.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, we never had an on-campus stadium. The Orange Bowl was 30 minutes away from the school with traffic and stuff, man. Who cares?
That's always going to be the case. Like I said, I mean, the city of Coral Gables is never going to allow them to build a stadium on campus. That's just not a thing that's ever going to happen. I mean, even the proposals that were done, you know, earlier in this offseason, I remember John Ruiz was making a push for it and stuff like that. It wasn't on campus because they know too. Coral Gables will just never allow that. That's never going to be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever, man. Like that stadium talk has never bothered me, because like even then it's not like Hard Rock's in like an uncomfortable area to get to, like where the Orange Bowl used to be and where Marlin Stadium is now, where you have to like park at people's houses.
Yeah.
You know, which, you know, I never went to the OB, but you know, it looked great, and you know, people have a lot of romance for it, but you know, it's a lot better to have my own park. It's a lot better to have my own parking spot. It's a lot better to have the better seating. It's right there with the turnpike. Like it's easy to get out of.
Yeah.
Like,
well, listen, as somebody that has been to games in both. Now, granted, the last game I was at in the Orange Bowl was 2003. Rock Berlin was quarterback. It was early in the season. It was against Gators, matter of fact.
Oh, you were at the comeback.
Yeah. That was the last game I got to go to at the Orange Bowl. Because we were down there. This was right after we had moved up here. And we were just down there visiting some family. So it worked out perfectly. But you know, I went to games there. Yeah, before then, I about had a heat stroke at a noon game in the Orange Bowl. So I have love for the OB. I really do. I wish they had never tore it down, but they did, and
it's a reality now. Like, it's just
Hard Rock's nicer. It just is.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever. I don't want to get too caught up. We've kind of gone on a tangent about the stadium talk. God damn it, Adam.
We can only talk so much about beating up on the Red Hawks. Yeah. That's all they are now. They're just the Red Hawks.
I'm so glad we don't have to hear any more about this stupid who's the real Miami? Who's the real Miami? Miami's on upset alert against Miami. Who's really going to win? Like, I'm just so glad it's over. I don't have to hear about it ever again until maybe the next time we play them.
I'm just glad we have football back.
Yeah.
It's been 8 months.
Dude, I was watching UConn versus NC State yesterday, and I was excited. That's how you know I'm starved.
I was paying close attention to Navy versus Notre Dame in Dublin.
I paid attention for about 5 minutes, and then I was like, man, I'm done with this.
I remember at one point I was flipping back and forth between the only 2 interesting games that night. I was flipping back and forth between Vandy and Hawaii, and then was the other one?
USC
UMass.
versus.
No, I didn't. I don't. Yeah, I don't even have. I don't have the. I got DirecTV, so I don't have.
No, this was what I don't have it either. But there was literally some dude on YouTube that he was just streaming the Pac-12 network uninterrupted, high HD, and that's how I watched it. Like I didn't even look up a stream. He was just on YouTube.
Well, the UMass game ended up being more interesting. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, we can make fun of the Gators. We can do that. Please keep him around for the next 2 years. You can fire him after 2025, but just let us beat up on you a little bit, please. That's all I ask.
Yeah, that unfortunately I only got to watch the first quarter of that live because I had to get up at 3:30 this morning for work.
You thought
so I wasn't able to watch the whole thing, but I saw Utah's first offensive play call from scrimmage, that 70-yard bomb.
Dude, you thought Josh Gaddis' play calling and play design was bad. I introduced to you Billy Napier.
Well, Billy Napier can run an offense. He's done it before.
Didn't look like it last night.
Well, the problem is, and he's kind of fallen into that trap that Mark Richt fell into early in his career. He has no offensive coordinator, and it's just been proven too many times that, especially at big time Power 5 football. It's too much to try and be the head coach and the coordinator.
Yeah, Adam put it to best here. Brian Kelly said Hard Rock was the loudest stadium he's ever been in after that Notre Dame game. Yeah, man. I mean, Florida State 2018.
That roof has got to keep so much more of that noise in.
It does. It does. Like it. Last year, before kickoff against Florida State, it was freaking loud, which I saw someone say up here earlier, like Florida State is normally 60-40 road and home. But last year was like 75-25 Miami.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, like there was a lot more Miami fans. Not near the end of the game, but at the beginning.
People talk about that kind of stuff. Listen, the days of Miami selling out every home game are gone. They haven't done that since the 90s. I mean, even when they were,
we haven't earned it.
Well, even in the early 2000s, they didn't sell out when they beat up on Rutgers.
0-1 Miami sold out one game, and it was against Washington.
Well, I think there were several games in Orange Bowl that were sold out.
No, I'm just saying for the 0-1 season. That's the only game we sold out that year. The greatest college football team of all time, and we sold out one game.
I mean, at the end of the day, Miami is an international city. Miami is not Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
No, yeah,
and for those of you that haven't been, I have. I've been to Auburn too. Been to Athens too. There ain't shit else there.
Yeah, I mean, when I was at that Florida State game last year, there isn't anything else to do with football or party. That's it.
Yeah, I mean it is.
And also in Miami, there's a large immigrant population, and you show them a football, and they're like, "What the hell is this? What is this? This is a ball? How does this work?"
Well, Roger Dodger, you also have to figure Utah has I think their stadium's not very big. Their stadium's like 50,000 capacity, maybe 60.
Yeah, workforce. That was the sellout. That was the only sellout. That's what I was trying to say. Miami, Washington, when we beat them like 60-7 or something like that. Ridiculous. I want that so bad, please.
Well, I think we've covered everything that we possibly can cover from tonight's game.
Yeah, we've gone to stadium talk, making fun of the Gators.
But hey, football's back. We're undefeated, so we can still claim that at least for another week. We're undefeated.
The road to 12-0 starts now. But
I don't know about all that, but
if you listen to Kane's Twitter, you will know all about that.
That's all right. But right before we got on here, I was watching a Georgia Tech fan melt down.
Oh my God, yeah, I saw like the end of that game, and I was like, "What is the score?" It was 28-13 not too long ago. I gotta watch the highlights of that because that looked like it was ridiculous.
That was something. Oh, that was a sight to behold. And listen, I'll give Georgia Tech their props. That is a more physical football team than they were under Jeff Collins, without a shadow of a doubt. But it's still Georgia Tech. Brent Key has got to recruit. Brent Key has got to learn to be a head coach.
It's better than they looked any of the last few years. I'll give them that.
Yes. So I think that game right there, in my opinion, Brent Key deserves the time to get that program turned around. It's not going to happen in 1 or 2 seasons.
I mean, who was the guy last year? Jeff Collins. You put him in that game this year, and they lose 39-7 or whatever it is.
Well, I mean, let's not forget Jeff Collins was getting railroaded by powerhouses like what was that, Northern Illinois. So
they beat us in 2019, though.
Well, I mean, when you're talking in conference, it's different. I mean, because you're playing, especially when it's a division opponent, that's somebody you're playing every year. I mean, it almost takes on, kind of like the Florida State thing. Listen, regardless of where either team is ranked, regardless of how they look, regardless of any of that, my pick for the Florida State game every year, 50-50. Either team could win that game. It just is what it is. That's how that rivalry has gone for decades, and that's probably how that rivalry is going to continue to go for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So, and especially when you're talking, divisional teams that you play every year, they almost kind of fall into that same category because those teams know each other so well.
I mean, well, I think that's about everything tonight.
I agree.
Yeah, just thank you for everyone that joined us for the past hour in what was supposed to be a recap of a game and just turned into several different tirades. But
we did recap the game though.
Yeah, for a little bit, but only so much you can talk about. Maybe we'll have more to talk about when we beat the shit out of the Aggies next week.
Oh yeah, that'll give us plenty to talk about.
I sit right behind that A&M bench. I really want to see a meltdown between Jimbo and this.
I mean, would anybody be surprised if a slap fight breaks out between the two? Because I wouldn't. Just see them start, like a couple of old ladies.
That's gonna be great if this thing goes south and we start hearing those stories once like Bobby Petrino's like resigned as offensive coordinator and it's like Jimbo went into Bobby Petrino's offense and a fight nearly broke out because of this and this and you're like just reading all this and you're like, this happened at a major D1 program.
Hey.
But yes, as before we log off, like Workforce said, like Happy Dodgers, like Roger Dodgers, sorry, said prayers again to Brennan, Traveling Fools, friend of ours.
Yeah.
Tough loss he suffered. I don't know if he's watching tonight. I don't know if he's going to catch the replay. But just know we're with you, buddy. And we're praying for you.
I don't know. He'll probably end up having to catch the replay because last time I talked to him, services were scheduled for today. So ain't a whole lot you can say.
Yeah, I mean,
it's hard to imagine. Listen, I got 3 kids. That's something I can't even fathom.
I'm just a young guy. Like I've had loss in my life. I'm pretty sure you've had losses in your life, but that's a different level of loss. We can only sort of imagine a little bit what it might feel like, but even then, not really.
Yeah.
Just know we're praying for you, buddy, and you're in our hearts and our minds. And
yeah, I'll get a hold of him sometime this week. Hopefully, we can get him back soon, get him back into the group.
Yeah, and if he still needs his time, then that's all right with us. He does whatever he needs to do. It's all good.
We'll be here to keep y'all entertained.
And we'll try. All right, but thanks for coming out, everyone, and have a good night. Go Canes.